Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Dimensions in Text webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute, but if you do happen to have any questions at any point during our class, please feel free to go ahead and type that into the questions and answers section. And at the end of the class, I will go through and answer any questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that's going to contain a document that's going to cover everything that we're going to talk about in today's class. And should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, again, please don't hesitate. You can reach out to our support department and they will be happy to help you out with any questions. Again, today's class is on dimensions in text, and my name is Nick. In today's class, we're going to go through and we're going to step through adding in text and dimensions to a model in Envisioneer. And then we're also going to be looking at worksheets to look at the variety of tools that are available in the worksheets for your text as well. So the first thing we're going to be taking a look at is setting up our dimension settings. We're then going to be looking at adding in dimensions, adding in text, and then adding in some roof text options. So first, let's take a look at dimensions. There are several dimension tools and dimension settings to accomplish quick and easy annotation of a set of drawings. We're going to be taking a look at the dimension settings. Now, before you insert a view of your model onto a worksheet, you want to take advantage of the automated dimension tools that are found in the model view environment. The many settings available will aid in matching your current office standards for your dimensioning practices. So to do this, we're going to go up to Settings, and then we're going to go to Document Settings. And then under Document Settings, at the very bottom, you're going to see two dimension options. You're going to see Dimension Auto Exterior and Dimension Auto Interior. We're going to start with the Exterior option. And when you select this, it's going to bring up the Dimension Auto Exterior section of the document settings. And what this allows us to do is it's going to allow us to control exactly how we want the dimension strings to be displayed on our model. So the first thing it's going to ask you is, well, what do you want to include on your dimension strings? We want to show the overall, the projections, and the openings. If you like to show interior walls on your exterior string, then you can also include your interior walls. And when you select interior walls, the interior wall section will now open up for you to edit. And then you can choose exactly how you want the interior dimension walls to be displayed on that exterior string. Are you dimensioning to the leading and trailing edge of the surface, to the leading or trailing edge of the core, or are you just going to show to the center of the wall? Again, if you don't want to show interior dimensions on your exterior string, just simply uncheck it and that option becomes disabled. If you're going to be drawing with angled walls, then you're going to want to make sure that you have your angled walls option enabled here. This will allow the dimensions to follow the angle that the wall is. So by enabling this, if you have a wall at a 45-degree angle, the dimension will automatically rotate to that 45-degree rotation as well. So again, if you're going to be drawing with angled walls, make sure you enable angled walls in here. Next, we have the dimension line distances. And this is just setting up exactly how you want the dimensions to offset from your model. The initial offset from the model is going to be 4 feet by default in our templates. You can adjust this in your template to match exactly what you want your office standards to use. And then we're saying any subsequent dimension string after that initial offset is going to be 2 feet away from that initial string of dimensions. So again, you can see that 2-foot dimension. And again, you can customize this, make it your own. If you have office standards, just set up your templates to use those settings. Next is extension lines. How do you want the extension lines to be displayed in your model? Do you want to extend to the corners of the model, or do you want to terminate in a straight line? Again, you can choose either of those two options there. How do you want to dimension your openings on your dimension strings? Are you dimensioning to the center of the opening, or are you dimensioning the actual opening itself? And again, you have two choices there, and you can choose whichever one works best for you. You can also include the opening height after the width of an opening if you wanted to. So in here, you can include how you want or how high that window is, so it shows up in your dimension strings. And then you can control the separator that's going to be applied to that. So if it's going to be a 3 foot by 3 foot window, then you can have a 3 foot slash 3 foot, a 3 foot dash 3 foot, a 3 foot by 3 foot, or a 3 foot over 3 foot. So again, depending on how you want that to be displayed in your dimension strings, you can adjust that accordingly. Typically, if you're going to be adding in window marks, or if you're going to be adding in a window schedule, you will not need to do this. So you won't need to worry about any of that. Pardon me. We're going to keep our set to openings, so it's just to the center of the opening. And then we're going to take a look at end condition. So when we add in our dimensions, what are we dimensioning to? Are we dimensioning to the veneer? Are we dimensioning to the core? Are we dimensioning to the center of the core, the interior of the core, or to the interior surface on our exterior dimensions? Typically, you're going to be dimensioning to the exterior veneer. So whatever the veneer is, you're going to dimension to the edge of that. However, in some cases, you may not want to dimension to veneer. You may want to dimension just to the core, or sorry, just to the core of the wall. So you would use the core exterior option. Now, again, you can adjust this to, again, match up with whatever your templates require. So that way it's always set up for you by default. We also have a dimension auto interior. Now, this is an ability for you to adjust how the auto interior dimensions are going to be displayed. Auto interior dimensions work with a running line command. So I left click on one side of my model, I move my mouse, and I left click again to create a line, and a dimension string will be attached to that line wherever I've drawn it. And the way that that line works is it's going to, anytime it intersects with a wall, it's going to insert a dimension string. And then you can control, do I want that to be to the leading and trailing edge of the surface, the leading or trailing edge of the core, or to the center of the wall itself? I want mine to be to the leading and trailing edge of the surface. Over here, we have an ignore wall dimensions. Now, what this allows us to do is, again, as I mentioned, when I draw a line through my model, it's going to add in a running line of dimensions. So if I cross over an exterior wall and over an interior wall, with this unchecked, it's going to show me the thickness of the wall every single time it crosses a wall. Some people like to see that because they want to call out the different wall thicknesses in their plans. Other people do not want to see it. They will have it denoted as a typical wall size, or they'll put a note in if a wall changes size. So depending on what works best for you, you can have this disabled so it will always show the wall thicknesses when you cross a wall. Or you can put a check mark in there to say ignore the wall dimensions, so that way it never shows you the thickness of the wall whenever you create a running line of interior dimensions. And I'll show you both options so you get an understanding of what I'm referring to here. Now we're just going to say apply and then okay. So we've made a couple of changes to our model. So now to our settings. So now let's go into our model and add in those dimensions. So the auto exterior dimension tool will automatically dimension the exterior walls of your home. By default, you're going to get your 3 dimension strings that are created, one for your openings, one for your wall segments, and one for your overall dimensions. So let's go up to Tools, Dimensions, and we're just going to select the auto exterior dimensions. As soon as I click that, it's going to automatically show me a dimension for the entire model. So I can see my overalls, all my projections, and all of my openings are all going to be dimensioned for me. And again, this is just a byproduct of setting up that dimension settings in our template. I can also add in my auto interior dimensions. So if I wanted to add in auto interior dimensions, I can simply go up to Tools, Dimensions, and I can select the auto interior dimension option. And like I mentioned, it's a running line command. So if I left click once, I move my mouse all the way through my model, and that one's a little too high. So we're going to do that again. So Tools, Dimensions, Auto Interior. We'll start from this side. That was too low. Try that again. Dimensions, Auto Interior. We're going to go right there. There we go. And we're just going to go all the way through that model. And what it does is it now adds in a dimension string for each of those rooms. To show you the option with the dimension strings showing the wall thicknesses, we're going to go back in, we're going to uncheck that, and then apply, and then OK. We're going to go back up to Tools, Dimensions, Auto Interior. And if I run a line through here, what you're going to see is the thickness of every wall as you draw through it. And as you can see, in some cases, it gets a little cluttered. So that's why some people don't like to have it turned on. They will call out the wall thicknesses as needed. And the other reason is if it's on and you don't want it, you have to manually go through and select each one of these to delete them out. So again, it is going to be a control that you may want to adjust. You may want to show it for some areas and maybe not for others. But again, you have the ability to turn that on or off as you see fit. So next, we're going to be looking at creating room dimensions. So using the room dimensions tool, you can quickly calculate the dimensions of a room and insert the dimensions into your plan. To create room dimensions, we're going to go up and we're going to select Tools, Dimensions, and we're going to select Room Dimensions. This is going to bring up the room dimensions cursor, and we can see that our cursor looks like a square with an X through it. So we're going to bring our cursor over into this bottom corner, and I'm just going to grab the corner of the drywall, and I'm going to bring my mouse over to the right, and I'm going to left click again. And I'm going to get the circle with an X. That's going to let me know that that's a snap point. Now what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to select the depth or the height of this room. And I'm just going to come all the way over to this corner and I'm going to left click again. This will bring up the room dimensions dialog. So as you see, it was a 3-click command. I specify my first point, I then specify the width, and then I specify the length of the height of the room. So now I can control how the distance is going to be displayed. So if I want to fine tune it, maybe I don't want it to show right down to the 16th of an inch. Maybe I just want it to be right to the inch itself. So it's going to go right down to 18 foot 10 by 15 foot. I can control what the width and the length is. So here we're saying width and length is in this direction. Or we can adjust it and say we want the length and width to be reversed. So we want length first instead of width. You can also control the dimension style. So when we add this in, what are we going to use as a dimension style? So I'm just going to grab standard and I'm going to say OK. And then once everything is set up, all we have to do is simply say OK. And it should add that in. And we're just going to, again, just get rid of this. And we're going to say OK. And it adds in that room dimension right in the middle of our design. And you can do that for every room. So if you wanted to go through and just add in room dimensions for each room, instead of using a running line of dimensions, you can do that. Again, it's going to be completely up to you on how you want to display your actual room dimensions in your plans. We can also add in linear dimensions. So as an example, let's say we want to make sure that this toilet is set a certain distance away. So I want to dimension to the center of the toilet from the wall so that we can tell that there is enough room between the wall or the cabinet and the toilet itself. So to add in a linear dimension, you can go up and you can select Tools, Dimensions, and you can just simply select the linear dimension tool. I'm just going to grab this corner and I'm going to move my mouse over. I'm going to find the center of this toilet, which is going to be right there. And I'm just going to basically kind of drop this in so that it finds that center point of the toilet. But I'm going to make sure Snap Track is turned on. Now, Snap Track is a command that will allow me to reference another point. It's located in the lower right-hand corner down here. You can see Snap Track. If it's highlighted in black, that means it's current. If it's gray, that means it's turned off. So again, I've selected my first point. I'm moving my mouse over. I'm finding the reference point of the center of the toilet. And now when I click and add that in, I can see that I have 2 foot and 2 1/8 of an inch away from the center of that toilet. And I'm just going to kind of move this line up so it looks a bit cleaner. And then I can go in and fine tune it. I can move the toilet around. You can again adjust how you want that dimension to read out. So that takes care of adding in our dimensions. We're now going to look at adding in some text tools. And I'm going to start in the model environment and show you how to add in text in the model environment. I want you to take note of the text dialog in the model environment. And then I'm going to add some text into the worksheets. And I want to, again, take notice of the commands in the worksheet as they do differ. So text can be added again in either your model view or in your worksheet space to annotate your plan. The elevation, sections, details, and 3D views must have text added once the view is inserted onto a working drawing sheet. We're going to add some text in again, like I mentioned, on the model first. I'm going to add in text into one room, and then we're going to move into our working drawing sheets. So to add in text into a room in model, you go up to Tools, Text, and Text. This will bring up the text dialog box. And here you can see we can control the text style. We can also adjust the justification. On the right-hand side, we have a running list of predefined room names that we can use. So I'm going to adjust this to say I want to use dimensions. I'm going to say I want to add in the word kitchen. So I'm just going to load in that little arrow here to load it in. If I want to add in multiple text, I'm going to check this box here so it will continually add text in for me. And then we're just going to simply say OK. And we have a kitchen right here, and I'm going to drop the word kitchen in. Just like that. Very simple. Place your text in wherever you want in your design. We're going to go to our floor plan, and I'm going to add in my working drawing sheet. So I'm going to go up to Tools, and I'm going to say Define Smart View. I'm going to turn off everything that I don't need to see. So I'm just going to turn off everything. So display none. And then I'm just going to select ground floor and say display all. So that just turns off everything that I don't need to see. So I'm just going to display none on there. And then so ground floor is the only thing we are seeing. Elements on terrain, I don't need to see the terrain, so I'm going to turn that off. And then on notation, I do want to see the text and the dimensions. So I'm going to make sure that those are enabled. And then again, viewing aids, if you want something to be disabled, you can turn it on or off through here. I'm just going to say OK. And again, underneath here, we're going to make sure that we don't have the roof framing turned on, floor framing, that's the one we want to turn off right there. And then we're going to say OK. So that's going to turn off all of the floor framing. And I may not want to see the roofs as well, so I can adjust that if needed. I'm just going to keep everything else on. I'm going to make sure that everything is visible within this drawing area. And I'm just going to simply make sure it's a drawing at 1/4 inch. And this is going to be ground floor. And we're just going to go ground floor. And then we're going to say inserts. And attached to my cursor is going to be that smart view. Now everything gets inserted because it was all a part of the model. So all of the text and all of the dimensions are a part of the actual smart view itself. If I want to start adding in text into my working drawing sheet, there are a couple of things I need to take into consideration. If this file or this worksheet gets updated, then any text that was added on top will be present after the update. So it's not going to remove. However, and I'm going to do both so that you can see what I'm talking about. If I go in and I say edit definition, and I say I want to add in text into here, we're going to call this living room. So I'm going to go back up to tools, text, and text. This is going to bring up the text dialog again. Now, if you remember, I asked you to take note of the text dialog in the model view. It had basically just the ability to control the text style as well as the justification. In a worksheet view, I not only have control over the text style, but I can control and override the actual font, the size, the color. I can add in a bold, italic, or underline, and then I can also adjust the justification. So, pardon me. So you have more control in the working drawing sheets with your text. So take this knowledge and use it to your abilities of what is going to work best for you. If you want to be able to control the text a little bit more in your working drawing sheets, then that's where you're going to be able to add in that text. So here we can go in and we can say living room. And I'm going to load in a couple. So I'm going to say I want to do multiple text insert. I'm going to load in living room and I'm going to say okay. I'm going to drop that in. So that adds in the first piece of text and the dialog pops back up. And then I'm going to say bedroom. I'm going to load that in. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to find a bedroom and we're going to drop in the word bedroom. Once you're happy with adding in all the text, you can just simply say cancel. And now all the text is added in. I've added this inside of the definition. So if I hit escape, if I go to move this, if I select it, all of the text will move with the smart view. That's handy because if I want to move that around, then that's going to take all the text and move it with it. However, I can also go up to tools, text. Let's say I want to add in, we'll do garage. Pardon me. And we'll add the word garage in. And then we'll add in bathroom. And over here, we'll just drop in the word bathroom. And then we're just going to say cancel. So now I've added in all of the text, but when I select it, those two options are not selected. So what's happening here is the text is actually inserted on top of the smart view. And the advantage of this is, even though if I want to move this around, the text is going to stay exactly where it was. But if I ever update the smart view, so let's say I go back into model and they want to add in another window over here. So we're just going to select this window, duplicate this over to here. And let's just make that 4 feet. We're going to update our text. We're going to go tools, dimensions, auto exterior. We'll just update all the text. So what's going to happen now is if I go back into my floor plan sheet, the smart view itself on that floor plan is not using the correct adjustments. So I would need to update it. So if I say update, remember we added in living room, we added in bedroom and living room inside the definition. So if I update that, it's going to show me the new windows, but the text that I added into that definition is going to be removed. So there are benefits and downfalls to both. It's really going to depend on what's going to work best for you. If adding it in on top is the better option, you just have to remember that if you move the smart view, you're going to have to move the text as well. If you like to add it into the definition, then remember, if you do update the smart view, you're going to have to add that text back in because it's going to be removed. So I'm going to go over to my elevations tab, and I'm going to add in an elevation here. I'm just going to delete this one out. I'll get rid of that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use a tool called descriptive text. Now, descriptive text will let you add in text that describes the element that you select. So as an example, maybe I want to call out this window. So I'm going to go up to Tools, Leaders, and I'm going to use the description with leader. This will bring up, or sorry, this will display a little cross or a little square as my crosshair. And in the lower left-hand corner, you can see it says select items. I'm just going to simply select this window. I'm going to left click again to specify that that's what I want to start my leader from. And I'm going to turn on angle snap. I want this to be at a set angle. And so by enabling angle snap, I'm going to be able to drop that in. And then we're just going to drop in our text. And what it does is it brings in the exact text of the element that we've selected. Now, the text that gets brought in is the text that that window is actually using. So here you can see if I select this window and I go into its properties, it is using that text. And it's going to use the alphanumeric. So if it's upper and lowercase, then that's what's going to be displayed in your working drawing sheets as well. You can adjust it. So, I mean, you can go in and say, well, it's not fitting exactly where I want. So I'm just going to go in and say, I want to move that around. So it now fits exactly where I want. But that is what we call descriptive text. We can also add in datum lines. So I'm going to select this elevation view, and I'm just going to update it. So we're going to redefine it because we did add in a new window. So I do want to redefine that smart view so it shows us the new window. I also want to add in some datum lines. Now, when you insert an elevation or a section onto your worksheets, you have the option to include a datum line at key points such as your floor level and your wall heights of each location. So in our elevation, we're going to include the floor level as well as the wall heights. So under general, I want to include the datum lines. Yes. What do I want to include? We're going to include floor level, so I'm going to say yes to that. And I also want to include wall heights. Those are the only two things I want to show on my datum line. And now I just need to make sure that I include it on the locations that I want. And in this case, I want it only on the ground floor. Under settings, I can control what I want the datum lines to look like. So I can go through, I can adjust the actual layer that it's going to be inserted on. I can adjust the position of datum marks. I can adjust the leader lines themselves, the colors, the line types, and the line weights. Same with the datum lines. I can again adjust the line colors, line types, and line weights. And I can also adjust the text and where it's going to be positioned. In this case, I'm going to say, okay, I don't want to make any adjustments to that. And then I'm just going to say update. And what this will do is it's going to update that smart view for us. And now I'm going to see the datum lines, and I can see the datum lines themselves. I can see the heights of those datum lines. And then I can also, over here, I can see the naming convention. So here we can see wall and ground floor. So that is what a datum line can achieve for you. These dimensions were added in as linear dimensions, so you can again add in your own dimensions if you want to. So if I just want to get rid of these dimensions, I'm going to delete those out. And what we're going to say here is I want a dimension from this to here. I can go up to Tools, Dimensions, Linear Dimension, and I can say, well, from here to here is going to be the height of that location, and I can add that in. So from the top of my floor to the top of my wall is exactly 8 feet. We also have the ability to add in what we call a roof slope marker tool. So a roof slope symbol indicates the slope of the roof that has been added in. When inserting a roof symbol, you first must define its properties, then click to insert it onto your worksheet. To insert a roof symbol, you're going to go over again in our working drawing sheet. We're going to select underneath the Draw tab or underneath the Draw menu. You can go to Details and you can select Roof Symbol. Under the Draw tab, you're going to go to the very end and you're going to select the drop down. You're going to select Roof Symbol. Now in here is where you can control the properties for that particular roof symbol. So how do you want it? Pardon me. How do you want it to read out? Is it going to be rise over run? And then you can define the slope value. What is the text style that you want to use? And what is the length and the alignment going to be? In this case, I'm going to keep mine as rise over run. I don't know what the slope is, so I'm going to use this little marker here and say, well, the roof that I want to insert is going to be based off of this slope right here. So I'm just going to pick on that. And just by doing that, it tells me what the slope is. So I can see now that that is an 812 slope. The text, I want it to be using the dimensions text. I'm going to use the dimension text style. Now, where do I want the text to sit? And that's what this alignment option tells me. So wherever the text is, that's where the side we want to choose. So I do want the text on the right side. So I'm going to make sure it's set to right. Now, just a quick tip here. The length is set to 1 foot by default because we're doing a rise over run of inches. So it's going to be a 12-inch run here. So that's why it's showing that. But I find that with the text size, it's a little too small. So I double this up. It's not going to affect the rise over run or anything like that. It's just going to affect the size of the roof symbol when we add it in. So I'm going to leave that at 2, and I'm going to say OK. And then I'm just going to place this roof symbol in right there on my plan. And I can now see that 812 slope symbol on my roof. Again, if I wanted to do the same thing again, I would say, well, this time I want it to be on the left side. And we know that this is a 812 because it's the same, but we're just going to go ahead and say from here to here, that's an 812. I'm going to say OK. And it's going to flip the text around so that the 812 is now on the left side. And you can do that for all of your roof surfaces so that you can show the slopes within the elevation itself. Now that covers everything that I wanted to talk about in today's class. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our class. If you do happen to have any questions, now is your chance to get those answered. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I will be sending out an email that's going to contain a document that covers everything that we've talked about in today's class. So if you happen to have any questions while going over that document, please don't hesitate. You can contact our support department and they will be happy to help you out with any questions that you may have. Perfect. Well, there doesn't appear to be any questions, so I do want to thank everybody for attending today. I do look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.